there are so many people floating around Washington who want a little dose of hagiography, who want a chance to get the stink of having worked for Trump off their otherwise stellar resumes. And some of them are vaunted people, Esper, Barr, Milley, Pence, for that matter, Ivanka and Jared. So an author comes along, and how do you guard against becoming their resume burnishing tool in the scope of a massive project you two are involved in?
I'm really glad you asked that question, Brian, and I'm really glad you used the word guard, because that's exactly how Phil and I felt in these moments, in these interviews. Sometimes we sat with people for 7 hours at a time, and we were on guard for people wanting to make everything a little more gossamer about how they handled a situation, make themselves look a little more brave, or perhaps a little more resolute. And in fact, I think we all know what the standards for serious journalists are, but I'll repeat them here. We don't have anything in our book that we couldn't corroborate independently. Every time that it was possible, we asked our sources for additional people who knew this information, or we sought out those as well. We asked our sources for calendar entries and text messages. I mean, we're pretty pushy and nosy, and they showed them to us to help, again, make sure that what they were alleging is something that we could take to the bank. And if we could not find that kind of information, if we could not find trust in what they were alleging, we didn't publish it.
If someone wanted to seize control, Milley thought they would need to gain sway over the FBI, the CIA, and the Defense Department, where Trump had already installed staunch allies. They may try, but they're not going to effing succeed, he told some of his closest deputies, the book says. The book also details how Milley confronted then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows at the annual Army-Navy football game about rumors that the president was preparing to replace then CIA Director Gina Haspel with a loyalist. What the hell is going on here? What are you guys doing? Don't worry about it, Meadows reassured him. Just be careful, Milley warned.
That conversation didn't happen. And General Milley, if he wants to come on this show or any other show, I'll be glad to come on with him and confront him to his face, because I can tell you the kind of things that he's sharing just didn't happen.
We don't have anything in our book that we couldn't corroborate independently. Every time that it was possible, we asked our sources for additional people who knew this information.
The interesting thing is that we hear a lot of tough rhetoric coming out of General Milley right now. And the truth of the matter is that I had dozens and dozens and dozens of conversations with him when other people were actually in the room and other people were on the phone. And if there was a real concern about what he's talking about with the coup and all of that, he didn't once mention that. I can tell you, he didn't mention it to the National Security Advisor. He didn't mention it on multiple phone calls when I was on with he and Secretary Pompeo. So, all of a sudden, this recollection that he's having now may make for good book sales, but it doesn't make for the truth.